Tony Prince at the International Radio Festival in Malta. You're such a legend. Your show this morning was so great.
Well, I enjoyed it, We're doing a different kind of radio now. United DJs Radio is the one I'm on with all my colleagues. They don't have a program director. They choose and play whatever they want. With the specification, they've got to spread it over 7 decades, including some new music as well. And so we're trying to appeal to everyone, but the majority of our listeners, I'm sure, will be plus 40.
And how can people find you? How can they find your new station?
Well, they can get the United DJs app. It's in both of the Google app. They just get that, put it on their iPhone or on the computer, and at a press of a button, they've got us. It's brilliant. I just think streaming is the future. I think FM is dead. It's only a question of time. People are saying DAB will take over. Maybe it will. I don't know too much about it. It's very expensive. But streaming is free as the air. It's exciting, when I'm sitting in the studio 9 till 11 in the morning talking into that microphone. Although I'm targeting like Britain, I know that everybody in the world is capable of listening, and I've got a machine, international time clock right facing me, and we've got London time, Sydney, Tokyo, and so on. So we can say, hi, it's morning here in the United Kingdom, but I know it's drive time in Sydney, Australia. How are you doing? This is just good for you. If you like some rock music, this will get you down the road tonight. That kind of thing, just talking to the world and doing dedications. This one's going out for somebody in India. This one's going out for somebody in South Africa. And so on.
So ever since you've been in the radio industry, you've always looked for the new way to do things. Like, you were at the very, very forefront at the start, and radio probably wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for people like you being so brave early on. Why has radio changed so drastically now?
I think it's because there's too much of it now, and there's too many ways of getting to music, If you did a radio station without a DJ, you'd call it Spotify. I think the DJ, certainly the ones I use, we brought back personality into radio. I think that was killed off. People like Capital Gold used to employ people like me, Tony Blackburn and Kenny Everett, but then they decided they didn't want to pay those kind of wages, economic moves, and they got rid of all the personalities, Ed Stewart and all those guys. So eventually those guys went down the ladder. There was nowhere for them. Nobody, with the new format for radio, nobody wanted them. And I was having a time of my life, with DMC, my other company, and I ran into a lot of them at a party. And what are you doing? Well, not much. I'm doing a bit of BBC local. Oh, I've got this recorded show in Scotland. And they were doing nothing. And I said to them, look, guys, we've got to do what Charlie Chaplin and his cohorts did in Hollywood many years ago. 100 years ago, they were so dissatisfied with the way the movie studios were treating them that they started their own production company, and they called it United Artists. So I was inspired by that to call this radio station United DJs. And that's exactly what we are. And we're streaming 24 hours a day. We've not only got some great legendary UK DJs, we've got Canadian jocks, we've got American jocks, we've got a Dutch guy, South Africa broadcaster. We've got them from everywhere. And we're trying to get into a situation where by the time the evenings come in England and it becomes morning in other parts of the world, we'll have DJs talking to them. It's developing. We came on air April the 2nd this year, and, we've just passed our 6-month anniversary. So it's still early days. We'll see where it goes. It might all fail, but we're going to have a right good go.
And I think it's that spark that you probably love so much. If you think about what you were doing in the early days, it was breaking new ground. It was being really brave. It was doing things that other people weren't doing.
We were teenagers. We didn't think it was brave to go out on a fishing boat and go out 3 miles outside the fishing limits and get on board Radio Caroline. You used to have to jump off this fishing boat onto a rope ladder that hung down the side of the ship. And if you missed it, you were dead. Thankfully, none of us ever missed it. But yeah, you look back and you realise it was a bit of a tin can, that boat. They all were. They weren't new or anything. They were Dutch ferries, passenger ferries. And in that respect, we did risk our life. You remember this Caroline South, you wouldn't remember it, but it made TV news. They dragged the anchor, and it came ashore, and it got grounded on the beach. And they had to Breach's boy, Tony Blackburn, and DLT, and Emperor Roscoe off. You saw them on the telly. I was in Bristol at the time, and when I saw these guys being Breacher buoyed onto the safety of the sand, I said to my friend who was with me, I'm going to join them. And I did. I joined Radio Caroline, and I stayed 2 years. I moved very quickly from the South ship because I had a northern accent. They finally recognised that and sent me up to the North ship, which was off the Isle of Man, between a little island off the coast of Cumbria and Northern Ireland, right there in the North Sea. The Irish Sea. The other ship was in the North Sea. And they were all over the place, There was Radio Scotland servicing Scotland. There was 210 serving Great Yarmouth over on the East Coast. And even the English Channel had forts, which they'd put in there in the war, in the Second World War, in case the Germans came. And they commandeered those and made them into radio pirate ships too. So it only lasted 3 or 4 years, and then the government made us illegal. And we came ashore. But we'd set the touch paper. The explosion was coming. The Beatles were happening, the Stones were happening. They were making great albums, and we were exporting them all over the world. And that was because the pirate ships exposed them, and people started buying more and more pop music. And so the whole economics of the record labels in the UK were great. And that's why Brian Epstein and EMI were able to take the Beatles to America, spend a lot of money getting them exposure, getting them on the Ed Sullivan Show, which was very crucial to their success. And but it all began because of the pirate radio station. In the meantime, I went to Radio Luxembourg. A lot of guys went to the BBC, and I stayed with Radio Luxembourg for 16 years.
Wow, incredible stuff. So what is it about radio that made you fall in love with it?
I don't know. I was a big Elvis Presley fan. I wanted to play Elvis music to people. I just loved music. That's the first thrust a DJ gets, a passion for music. And damn well. I mean, look, I used to be a singer in a band. I left the band to join a 15-piece orchestra in my hometown, Oldham. Top Rank, the company who employed us, asked me to play the records when the band had a break. So I'm working all night. And then they moved us down to Bristol. And there, the Musicians' Union came to see us, to see we were getting the right deal. And when they found out I was working so many hours doing the DJing and the singing, playing guitar, they said, I think you should get more money. So the union secretary went off to get me more money, but he came back with a letter. It's been brought to our attention, you're breaking union rules. Keep music live. We do not like records being played in ballrooms and dance halls because they're putting our members out of work. Because before records, when the 15-piece band had a break, a trio would play music, 3 musicians. Now it was a little kid with a record player. Anyway, they had a big union meeting. The company Top Rank used me as a scapegoat, and I was voted out of the union because the meeting was 100 musicians who also hated records. They didn't see the potential of how much they're going to earn with records in the future. And I said to them at that meeting, my plea was, look, don't throw me out of the union. Keep me in the union. Keep all DJs in the union. Then you can control us. If you don't, you're going to lose the fight.
What's so interesting is it seems throughout your life you've always had amazing foresight. You've always seen things that were coming. And that's what's so fascinating with the app that you're doing.
Yeah, I won't do anything unless I think it's a great idea. DMC was a great idea. It was a remixing club. We were the first company in the world to remix records, mega mix records, then eventually get into remixing. We had a great team, and they expanded their careers. One of my boys is still Kylie Minogue's music director, The rest of them are all making fortunes going around the world doing club nights. But it all started at DMC, and the big thing that helped DMC to win was we started a newsletter, a 16-page black and white A4 magazine, and we called it Mix Mag. And Mix Mag grew and grew and grew, and eventually the big clubs started to make their reputations in that magazine. The big name records started advertising in there, and Mix Mag became very thick, and I eventually became very rich.
Good for you. You deserve it for breaking so much ground that you have. You really, really deserve
But
it.
we only sold the magazine. I never sold DMC. That still puts on the World DJ Championships. We have done since 1985. And here we are in Malta, and I'm really toying with the idea of bringing the event here. I think this would be a wonderful environment.
For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. It's an amazing place, that, and it's really growing within the music scene as well.
It is.
Okay, one last thing before... Okay, you go.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, Daryl is doing such a fantastic job with the International Radio Festival. And if we could put on the World DJ Championships just shortly before that, it would make it an even more incredible festival. All about DJs. We'll get Carl Cox to come over and do a great club night and really concentrate on making Malta what Ibiza became.
Absolutely. The thing is with Ibiza, when you go there now, it's very different. And so Malta has that fresh energy still, that you could still make it with that pureness that Ibiza used to have.
Yeah, it's weird. I hate to tell you this. This is a very ancient room we're in. Do you think those coins down there are worth a lot of money? They look like Roman coins to me. I would get hold of them and take them home with you. Hey, how Carly made her fortune interviewing Tony Prince.
One last thing before we go then, for anyone that's watching this, that's sitting there thinking, I want to be like Tony, what advice would you offer them?
Well, don't grow too tall. Oh, look, I've always been an ideas man. The excitement of the Pirates led to me going on Radio Luxembourg, making a name for myself. And then I left the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg to move back to London and be program director. A great, great period. The power you get then, all the record companies. I never bought a meal in my life after that,
And you're still not now.
No. But then, I left with the idea for DMC because I was playing mixes on the radio on Luxembourg. And I got letters from DJs who said, how can we get these mixes? You're playing them on Luxembourg, they're no good to us there because you've got static all over them, So I went to the BPI and they gave me a license to start the DMC Club and Mixmag. And then, I started a company, another idea. I woke up one morning, I thought, my daughter had got married and we had a film made by a videographer who comes to the wedding and he films. And I thought, look at these great films. And I noticed my wife and family were watching all these videographers' demo tapes. They'd go into the TV room on Sunday and spend the whole day watching these weddings of other people, looking for ideas, commenting on them. And I thought, my God, there's no TV channel on Sky that caters to weddings. So I started Wedding TV. Another idea. It was a great idea. I had the wrong partners. Unfortunately, they thought they were ITV and they overspent, and it only lasted 5 years, sadly. So anyway, it was a good idea, and people loved it at the time. Another idea, of course, is the World DJ Championships. And so it goes on, And going to the Royal Albert Hall, I think, establishes where my heart is. I want the DJ industry to do well. We started off in the Pete Stringfellows Hippodrome. We went to the Hammersmith Palais. And then one day I said to Christine, my wife, I said, listen, we've got to take the bull by the horns. I want the World DJ Championships on at the Royal Albert Hall. And we did, and we put it on 3 times. And we had Public Enemy come in, Run DMC, James Brown, Janet Jackson, Alexander O'Neill. They all came to it. It was brilliant. And then the Brits took the Royal Albert Hall. They got the idea from me. And instead of going into the Grosvenor House Hotel, they put it on at the Royal Albert Hall. And the word went round the record industry, do not send artists to the DMC event. You've got to prioritise the Brits.
Wow.
So we couldn't go to the Albert Hall anymore, and we kind of shrunk down in size and forgot the big name artists. And we've been going on the strength of the great talent that's out there, DJs mixing music live.
Well, Tony, keep doing what you do. You're an incredible human being, and thanks for everything that you've created in this world, because there's so much of what we do today that wouldn't be here if you hadn't have had those ideas.
Well, I like to think I've helped the DJ industry. It's my first love after Elvis Presley. God bless the king.
Tony Prince at the International Radio Festival in Malta.